welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a very chill February wrap up. I had a pretty good reading month in February, although it came with a lot of changes and challenges, so I didn't read quite as much as I was hoping I would, but I'm still very happy with everything that I did read, and I'm very excited to talk to you about the 8 books that I finished in the month of February. I read some books that I liked, I read some books that I loved, and I read some books that I felt just okay about. So let's talk about them all. I am just gonna start by mentioning the 3 books that I read for my Readers Also Enjoyed reading vlog that I just posted a couple of days ago. I picked 3 books that were often compared to or seemed similar in some way to Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I spent a couple of weeks reading those. I really love how that video turned out, so I would be very appreciative if you would go and check it out. I go into a lot more depth about my thoughts on each of these 3 books in that video, but I will briefly mention them here. So I started off by reading Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I've read one other Tiffany D. Jackson, Monday's Not Coming, and I also really enjoyed that one, but I loved this book. Surprisingly, a book that I finished and immediately gave 5 stars. It just had a lot of really great things to say about mental health. I really appreciated the journey and struggles that Enchanted went through, and I liked who she became on the other side of it. I think Tiffany D. Jackson is one of the very few YA contemporary authors that I will continuously pick up. She just knows how to craft a story. She knows how to suck me in. She knows how to make me fall in love with her books. So I really enjoyed this. I would highly recommend it. Next up, I read The Final Revival of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton. It is very reminiscent of Daisy Jones and the Six. In fact, if you are a big fan of Daisy Jones and are looking for a very reasonable comparison, then this is the one I would give you, because it is essentially the same kind of story. Not the exact same in terms of plot, but structure, format, all of that. It's told in like the interview style. I really liked this book. I had a lot of fun reading it. I listened to the audiobook, which I would absolutely recommend because the audiobook has a full cast narration, but ultimately I do think this book is fairly forgettable. I just don't think that there was anything about it that super stood out to me, and I don't think I will think about it beyond the next couple of weeks. So yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was good. I enjoyed my time reading it, but it's not going to be a new favorite book of all time. And the same can be said for my next read, which was Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. This one I just felt very disappointed in because I had really high expectations for it, and I just didn't end up enjoying it. I will say that I enjoyed the characters in this book. Every single character sort of jumps off the page and comes to life, and I really appreciate that about the book, but I found the storyline sort of mediocre. I found the writing to be just all right, and I ultimately finished this book thinking, I wish I didn't spend time reading it. Lots of people have liked it, and I feel like I'm sort of on the outside of enjoyment, but this one was only okay for me and not something I would jump to recommend immediately. Hello. Next up, let's talk about the only book that I actually don't have here physically to show you because I checked it out from the library, and that is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I almost forgot who the author was. I actually have filmed a full reading vlog and review of this over on my TikTok, so I will of course leave a link to that down in the description if you're interested. This is about a girl named Signa Farrow who has basically avoided death her entire life. At the beginning of the book, she goes to live with her only remaining living relatives, the Hawthorne family, and she sort of gets caught up in the mysteries of this family. When she gets there, she learns that her cousin has recently passed away, and her cousin's daughter is dying from the same illness that her cousin died from, and she begins to realize that there might be more to these deaths than meets the eye. There might be murder actually taking place in this manor. I found this to be a really fast-paced and fun read. It has been super hyped over on TikTok, which is part of the reason why I picked it up, but overall I found like it was only all right. Unfortunately, it did not live up to the hype and expectations that I had for it. The characters are really fun and the story is really good, but I found the mystery element to be sort of underdeveloped. I definitely felt like the ending was really rushed and the pacing was off for the majority of the book. I just feel like the author had a lot of really good ideas, but didn't really know how to tie all of those ideas together. That being said, it does leave off on a pretty big cliffhanger, and I probably will be picking up the sequel, which comes out later this year. It was fun. I definitely had a lot of fun with it, and I'm sort of invested in what's going to happen with these characters next. I also read the first 2 volumes of the Spy Family manga series by Tatsuya Endo. These are super popular just in like the bookish internet space in general right now. Everybody seems to be reading and loving Spy Family. I ended up getting all of the volumes that are currently translated into English. On Valentine's Day, my husband bought them all for me from Target because they were having a buy one get one 50% off sale. So I've read the first two now and I really like them so much. Like, laugh out loud, funny manga. This follows a spy named Twilight who is tasked at the beginning of the first volume to infiltrate this country. Essentially, they are striving for peace between these two nations, and the government that he works for thinks that the answers lie in this one particular man that is a citizen of the other country, and he is given the task to sort of infiltrate this guy's life. And the way to do that is to enroll a child into the same school that his kids go to. So at the beginning of the first volume, he has to find a child somewhere and then also find a woman to be the mother of that child. Little does he know that the girl that he ends up adopting at the beginning of the volume is a telepath, and the woman that he meets and ends up marrying to be the mother to his child is a trained assassin. And so each of the members of this family are living this alternate secret life that the others don't know about, and it is just a really good time. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm gonna read the rest of the volume soon, and I believe that the 9th volume is getting translated in English and coming out later this month. Maybe like at the end of March. Really glad that I got into the series when I did, but I wish I would have picked it up sooner because it's just a blast and I would highly recommend it. If you like manga, if you like action-packed, silly stories, then this is a series you should check out. You're gonna have to lay down. All right, next up, let's talk about Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. This is the 1.5 novella that goes along with Sorcery of Thorns, which of course I've said so many times is one of my favorite YA fantasy books that I've ever read. And I didn't even know that this was coming out until about a week before it came out, and I feel fine about it. To be honest, it's just like a really fun sort of extended epilogue to Sorcery of Thorns. There's not like a big super in-depth plot or lots of action or anything. Essentially, Elizabeth and Nathaniel are getting ready to host the midwinter ball at the manor, and at the beginning of the book, the manor has sort of turned against them and is trapping them inside, and they have to figure out what the manor wants before the ball in 10 days. And I feel like it was really unnecessary. Unfortunately, it's sort of read like fan service a little bit, and she even does say in the acknowledgements that this book wouldn't have happened if it weren't for all of her fans asking for some kind of like extra something for Sorcery of Thorns. I firmly disagree that Sorcery of Thorns needed a sequel or anything, really. The magic of Sorcery of Thorns for me was the fact that the author packed so much into a standalone fantasy. I did enjoy my time reading this, but at the end of the day, I just didn't feel like it was super necessary, and I really hope that this is not the start of some kind of continuation to Sorcery of Thorns, because I don't think it needs anything extra. As much as I love those characters and as much as I love that story, I don't really want to read any more about them. I'm satisfied with how their story concluded in Sorcery of Thorns, and now I'm satisfied with how their story concluded in this Mysteries of Thorn Manor. So as much as I love being back in this world with these characters, I don't feel like I need any more from them, and I hope the author just sort of like lets it go. This was just all right for me, and she moved it. Sorry. If you're already a fan of Sorcery of Thorns and you're looking for more, then obviously give this a go, but don't have super high expectations for it. And finally, the last book I have to talk about, the last book that I finished in February, was Men We Reaped by Jesmyn Ward. Obviously, you know that one of my goals for 2023 is to read one nonfiction book every single month, and I actually started the month reading a different nonfiction book and ended up putting that one aside, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but just because my brain capacity and everything starting the new job was not allowing me to fully take in the content. So I put that one down with the intention of coming back to it later in the year. But then I saw my friend Max over at Well Done Books. He used to be a booktuber but now does Instagram and TikTok. He had recently read this and gave it 5 stars, and so I decided that I needed to pick it up immediately, considering that it's been on my TBR since like 2018. This is Jesmyn Ward's memoir. It focuses a lot on her growing up in the South and her experiences as a young Black girl in the South, but it also is sort of framed around these 5 deaths that occurred in her life in a very short amount of time. These 5 men that she was close to in different ways all passed away within a couple of years of each other, and so the book is sort of an exploration of grief, not only her grief but also the grief of her community and her friends and her family. It was a really well done memoir. I enjoyed my time reading this, despite the fact that it's a very tough subject matter and it's bleak at times. It sort of read like a novel because Jesmyn Ward just painted a picture of this community, this town, these people, but also the lives of these men. It deals a lot with drug addiction and drug abuse and sort of the cycle that especially Black men sort of get into in this time, but also now, and how society doesn't really give them the opportunity to break free from the cycle. I really enjoyed it. It was so good. I didn't end up giving it a rating because it feels so personal. Like, you can tell that the author put a lot of herself into this. I didn't feel right rating her own personal experiences, but if I were to give it a rating, I would probably give it 5 stars because I was sucked into this. And now I want to read everything that Jesmyn Ward has written. I have a couple of her novels on my physical TBR, and all of her books just sound amazing to me. I think she has a new book coming out later this year that also sounds really good. So I'm going to probably become like a Jesmyn Ward fangirl over the next few months because I loved this so much. So those are the 8 books that I read in February. It was a really good reading month. I, for the most part, liked everything that I read. There were only a couple of duds, and even those weren't horrible. They just weren't like particularly my taste, which I'm completely fine with. March is a very exciting month for me. It's my birthday month and I'm turning 30 this year, which is wild to me, but I'm excited. I hope that the next year is way better than the previous year, and I'm sort of like feeling like I'm on the right track. So I'm glad that the season of my life is changing a bit. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video and what you thought about them. Do you have similar or different opinions to me? I'd really love to know. Also, let me know some books that you read in February, or maybe what was your favorite book that you read in February. I'd really love to know that as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!